I'm going to call this meeting to order. Welcome to the February 6th workshop of the City of Murrieta Council is now called to order. Roll call, please, Madam City Clerk, to determine for a quorum.
Councilmember DeForest.
Here.
Councilmember Lavelle.
Here.
Councilmember Holliday.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Warren.
Here.
Mayor Stone.
Here.
Let the record reflect that all members are present.
Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to move on to our workshop, Economic Development Coalition Update. Madam City Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have actually Mr. Scott Agajanian over here. He's ready to present, and he has with him Connie. County Stouffer. There you go, with the EDC.
So good afternoon, Mayor Stone, Mayor Pro Tem Warren, and City Council members. We are before you on this delicious smelling afternoon to go over the Economic Development Coalition. Just a reminder, this is brought back to you. This was a recommendation of your council at the last Council Goals Workshop that we bring this back before you. With that, Connie Stouffer, who is the Executive Director of the EDC, will be doing a presentation for you, and we'll be here for any questions you might have at the end.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council, for having me back here today. I'm going to give you a presentation. Some of it will be maybe new to you or familiar to you for those of you who are more familiar with the EDC, but I wanted to give a little bit of a background. So first, what is the EDC and how is it different than what it was before? The Economic Development Coalition is a nonprofit economic development agency that was founded here in the Valley over 30 years ago. During that 30 years, there's been various iterations and attempts at doing economic development in the region, and some more successful than others. The previous iteration that ended around 2020 with the retirement of the previous director left a lot of things to be desired, and not to point fingers or to blame or anything, but a lot of the criticism was that a lot of what the EDC was doing was networking events, mixers, golf tournaments, a lot of things that our regional chambers do quite well and that we didn't exactly need the Economic Development Coalition to do. It wasn't doing exactly what we would describe as economic development. I would not disagree with that assessment. To be fair, a lot of economic development organizations fall into that trap. Throughout the country, a lot of people fall into economic development. If you ask most economic developers how they got into it, it was a haphazard sort of way. There's not exactly a degree in economic development. You get into it because you love community service, you love helping businesses, you love serving your community. And a lot of times people end up in these roles because they were very involved in the community, but didn't have economic development experience. And we fall into those situations where they try to do their best and it falls flat. So when I came on to this position, that was communicated to me, that we needed to do economic development. We can't be doing what we were doing in the past. And so we've been really laser focused on doing economic development in what I consider to be the true sense of the word. So we've been focused a lot on marketing the region, focusing on international recruitment and trade missions, doing data-driven activities, and focusing on high-wage job creation. When I came into this role, I also promised to provide an ROI. You don't want to invest a lot of dollars, community dollars, into an organization without knowing what you're getting from it. So from this past year, from our recruitment activities and our announcements, most recently of STARS Enterprises, which is a lithium-ion battery manufacturing company, for the dollars that were invested in the organization in 2023, we were able to return $199 in value to the communities and capital investments. We hope to continue to grow that and continue to provide that data that shows the value of the investment in economic development in the region. These are some of the successes that I've had in the past, both in this current role and in my role in the past. And I share this only to tell you that while I might be new to this organization and to the region, I'm not new to economic development. I've had experience in varieties of economic development organizations in 3 different states, very different organizations, very different regions. All of them had different assets, challenges, and opportunities. And so there's not a one-size-fits-all approach to economic development. It really requires a data-driven approach that focuses on each community in the region. Even within this region, each community has a different vision for what they'd like their community to look like, the industries they want to focus on and grow, and I have the experience in various regions doing exactly that. I also have international experience. Our recent focus on international trade, both in the recruitment of companies and on international trade missions, is something I've done in the past. Those top 3 pictures are pictures where I was able to go with the Governor of Oregon's office on multiple trips to Japan on trade missions with her office. And then that bottom picture is most recently of me in Taiwan on a trade mission there, focusing on bringing tech companies to the region. Now focus more on our strategic initiatives that we're working on. Community outreach, branding and marketing the region, expanding our organizational capacity. We're a small organization. We're looking to grow so they can provide more robust services to the region. Our FAM tours, FAM is short for familiarization. The city of Murrieta participated in our tour in 2022. That was the first one that the EDC put on. We just hosted a second one this last year in 2023 and plan to do that on an annual basis. Those FAM tours bring out site selectors. Those site selectors are hired by firms all around the world to find them locations. It's really imperative that they are familiar with our region and familiar with our assets, our community leaders, and how we can get projects done. Some of the feedback we received from this most recent FAM tour, and these are our site selectors who work all across the country, is that they were relatively unfamiliar with our region, and they were surprised at how developed it was. They were really surprised by that. And so that's something we need to bring more site selectors out to show them the development that's already happening and the opportunities to grow more. We're really focused on foreign direct investment. That's bringing international companies here. When we think about the difficulty we might have as being in California and recruiting businesses, when we're looking at recruiting international companies, it's not that much difficult than where they are coming from. If you're looking at companies in Europe, for example, the regulations that they see there are, quite frankly, usually more than what they would see in California. If we're trying to recruit companies from Kansas, it's going to be a lot more difficult than where they're coming from. But when we're looking at international companies coming to the United States, coming to California is very attractive for them, and we're seeing a lot of traction that way. We're also strategically focused on specific industries. We want to bring in high-wage jobs that are a good fit for our region. So we're focused on life sciences and pharmaceuticals, which is a great fit for the city of Murrieta. We're focused on aerospace, advanced manufacturing, and green tech jobs. We're also focusing more on regional engagement and advocacy in partnership with our chambers and the legislative councils and things so that we can be an additional voice for our business community. We're also very focused on our commuter workforce, and I'll have an additional slide to go over that here, and providing additional data resources for our communities and our economic development partners. Talking about commuting workforce. As many of you know, we have thousands and thousands of our residents who are commuting out every day. Around 120,000 people from our region commute out to the coast every single day. We've known that for a long time, and we communicated that to site selectors on our FAM tours. As they come to our region, you're not going to have to look for people. We already have them here, except they're leaving for jobs and they're driving 4 hours a day, and we would much rather work closer. But they needed more information about them. What were they doing? What fields were they working in? What are their backgrounds? And we couldn't find that information anywhere. So what we did is the hard labor-intensive work of going census tract by census tract. We can see where they're driving to, and generally we were thinking San Diego, Orange County, LA. And that's where they're going. But we went all the way down to the census tract level, which is usually just a couple block radius in urban areas. So then we could look at the map and see what was in that census tract area. And we could see it was a hospital, or it was Disneyland, or it was a manufacturing cluster. Then once we knew where those clusters were, we deployed geo-targeted ads to those clusters to advertise them jobs that are in our region. When they interacted with those ads, we got more information about them, their demographic information, their age, their gender. We found out which jobs they were looking at on our website, and that was very valuable information for us that we can now pass on, not only what industries they're in, more demographic information, but that they're also interested in jobs here. One thing that we can't point to right now is that we don't currently have employers from the city of Murrieta listed on there. It's for all of our other communities. We'd love to be able to have all the employers that are in the city of Murrieta included in that data to be able to drive more workers to look for jobs here. We already have them pulled, we already have the list, and it's only a matter of putting it on our website, and we have that already. We're also working on communicating our strategic advantage. Most people assume that California is going to be much more expensive than other places, and it is more expensive than some. But when we look at places that we're more highly competitive with, like Austin, Phoenix, Las Vegas, we can show that we're cheaper or the same price as them with a better quality of life, safer communities, better school districts, and a more attractive place to be in one of the largest economies in the world. These are things that we need to communicate better. Instead of just assuming that people think that we're more expensive, we actually need to show how we can compete with other places that are trying to compete for our business. And here are some pictures of some of the things that we've done recently. There's a couple pictures from FAM tours, a couple pictures from Select USA, which I know the city of Murrieta has participated in, and it was great to have them there, and the announcements from our recruitments this year. What's next for the EDC? Really, we're here because we want the city of Murrieta to be a part of the organization. You're a vital part of the region, and we'd like to have you at the table. Some of the important discussions that we're going to be having going forward really needs to have your voice at the table. Without it, I don't think it would be complete. One of those conversations is branding the region. That was one of the first things I was told I needed to do, is figure out what we're going to call the region. We had been using Valley of Innovation, which never really stuck and people didn't love. We need to know what we're going to call ourselves when we're out there marketing. It's going to make us more effective. But I know that the city of Murrieta is going to have an opinion about what that should be, and your voice should be a part of that conversation. And to be honest, we've had this conversation. I've spoke to each of you, I think, about the direction that's going. Without you at the table, it probably will look very differently than what it would look like if you were at the table for that. Continue to work on strategic initiatives, advocacy, the cost structure. So in our previous conversations, and for the past 3 years, well, 3 years ago, there was a 3-year agreement put into place that all the communities in the region would pay $30,000 a year for the membership fee into the organization. That's what it is now. But that 3 years is coming to an end soon. And so I'm re-engaging that conversation with our communities about what that cost structure should look like going forward. Should it remain at a $30,000 flat fee for everybody? To be honest, that's going to be hard for us to always be at that same level forever going into the future. Costs go up, all of our trade shows are more expensive, travel's more expensive. We need to look at ways that we can be sustainable without making it a hardship on our communities either. So one of the proposals we're going to be discussing in that meeting is having a population-based model. It's similar to what Greater SAC does. I think other organizations are looking at going to a population-based model so it's more equitable for all of the communities, so that the smaller communities aren't paying the same amount that larger communities are, and that we can incrementally grow over time. So as communities grow, we can grow with them. That proposal is looking at like about a 40-cent per person fee. Depending on exactly where the population lands, I think the city of Murrieta would be around $42,000 for that. But again, that's a conversation we're going to be having with all the city managers coming up in March. And we would love to have you at the table, because I'm sure you have an opinion about what that looks like for the city and what's fair and equitable and what's reasonable for that. We're working right now on our strategic plan, our mission and vision for the region. Again, those are things that we'd love to have your conversation and your input on as we decide how we're going to continue to grow over the next 3 to 5 years. And really, it's about being stronger together, expanding our capacity, working together more, and creating more opportunity throughout the region. I appreciate the opportunity to come and present to you today, and I'm open for questions. I'm sure that you have some, and just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Connie, for your presentation. At this time, we will take council questions. I do not see any at the moment in the queue. Okay, Councilmember Holliday.
Thank you, Connie. Appreciate the information. I'd like to hear from Scott first to see what his thoughts are.
So, thank you, Councilmember Holliday. It runs down parallel tracks. In the past, the EDC, I didn't think was providing the right kind of value for the city of Murrieta. This is a unique platform for the city and for economic development. Most of the organizations we join, I don't come before your council to discuss and ask permission. It's a part of the departmental budget, and it's a part of the goals and strategic vision we have for how we're going to run economic development. Because council has been a part of this particular organization in the past, because your council has had members and attendees in the past, you've had a different level of input. So this is different than us coming before you saying we want to be a part of ACRE, the Commercial Real Estate Organization, or ICSC, which all of you do participate in, or NAOP, or any of the other number of organizations that we partner with, Team California, for example. So this one has had a unique viewpoint for your council. And so because of that, you've had unique input as to the path and direction. In this case, we've been working with an organization that has all of our neighboring cities as a part of it. On one hand, as Connie says, we're not at the table. So when other neighboring cities make suggestions, we don't have a voice to either promote Murrieta or counter those suggestions or agree with them. So we're not actually giving our input to kind of regional collaboratives and regional initiatives. That is a concern for me. You know, I will say that I've watched the EDC over the last 2-3 years now?
2 years.
2 years, time flies. And I've seen them do some things they've never done before. So for example, when we're at ICSC, Connie is at ICSC representing the EDC. When we're at Select USA in Washington, DC, so is Connie. So these are not the kind of maneuvers that you saw from past EDCs. They were run on more of a part-time basis, and they didn't have that presence. So I'm appreciative of the presence that they have, and I've watched them grow as an organization. But in our particular case, I think the biggest concern that I have is that we're not at the table with the other cities.
Thank you. And then Connie, you had a slide that had an ROI number on it.
Yeah,
Can you go back to that for a second?
I can.
Can you explain that?
Right. So each year, my promise is to provide an ROI, and it's going to be very different every year. You know, as Scott can tell you, some projects from the time you meet the company to the time they're making an investment, it can take years. But we've been very fortunate this year. So the Tunisian battery manufacturing company that we recruited and had the announcement in December, they have a year one $60 million investment with 60 jobs. And so we take the approximate new payroll and capital investment that they're going to be making into the community, and we simply divide the money that was invested into our organization to say, for every dollar put into our organization, this is what we brought to the community. So that's what we try to provide, just some transparency to the work that we're bringing.
Okay. And as you know, when we met, I used to be the treasurer of the EDC back in the day for 4 or 5 years. And I agree with you. It was not headed in a direction that I think was beneficial to most cities, and I think a lot of cities dropped out at one point. So it's nice to see that you've been able to change the direction and get most of the cities back on board.
Thank you.
And the membership is a 1-year commitment?
We're going to be asking for a longer-term commitment, and that's the conversation, I think, for what the city feels comfortable with. Previously, 3 years ago, all the communities made a 3-year commitment to the organization, and I think that's what the other cities are going to be hopeful for. To be frank, the way they feel is that they kind of stuck it out through the hard times, and Murrieta left, and they've been kind of shouldering some of that, the cost and all of that, and so they don't want to have you join and then have a bump in the way and then have you leave again, because it's really disruptful to the partnership and the collaborative nature of it. I'm hoping that what we can forge is a partnership that we can go through those hard times. Economies flux, things happen, and we're going to have to always be able to come together and work together so that we can get through those and have an open dialogue. And so what I'm hoping is for a longer-term commitment. And again, that cost structure, we're going to be having that conversation. I believe the meeting's scheduled for March 11th with the other city managers to hash out what the funding will be exactly. But as it stands today, it is $30,000 for that. I've had some positive feedback on the per population model, but again, there's going to be a conversation, and we'll see how that shakes out in the room.
Obviously, with a longer-term commitment, we would be looking for something of accountability,
Yes.
that, there is some performance metrics of some sort put into place.
Agreed, and we can have a conversation about what you would like to see for those performance metrics. One of those is that ROI that that we'll work on providing, and we're working on putting some of those performance metrics into the strategic plan now. That plan will probably be voted on at the March meeting because we have a draft that we've been working on for the last few months, but there's certainly time, I think, for you to have some conversation about what you'd like to have those metrics be.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Holliday. Mayor Pro Tem Warren.
Thank you, Mayor. Nice to see you, Connie. I have a question for you. How do you select a location to show a potential site selector?
So we work on that in collaboration. So the site selectors, if we get an RFI for a project, so to say, they'll tell us they need 50,000 square feet, they need so many dock doors, they need certain ceiling heights. So we do a search to find all of the sites that meet that criteria, and then we submit all of those. For FAM tours, we leave the site selection that we take the tours on to the city. So I say, every community has this number of hours in a day. What do you want to do at that time? So we look at sites, we go meet community members, we kind of craft that based on what the city wants. So we leave that up to the discretion of the city to do that.
And then my next question would be, so let's just say a big, huge company wants to come to this region.
Yeah.
And every city in your membership wants that big company. How do you represent everybody equally and fair and get a good spot for your potential client?
Right, that's a great question. So what I do is I try to say each city, all the cities have a site that meet the requirements. We're gonna submit them all to the very best of our ability to highlight it the best we can. And if they come out for a site visit, we're gonna show we're gonna show all the sites to them. We're gonna do our very best to highlight every one of them on as equal of a playing field as possible. In the end, it is my job to get them somewhere in the region. And they're gonna have favorites based on a wild set of criteria that, sometimes we don't even know until they get here. As just an example, when I was in Idaho, one of the recruitments was Chobani, the yogurt company. They built the world's largest yogurt processing facility there, 1 million square feet. Everybody wanted that project. But one of the reasons why they've selected the location they did is that their CEO flew his plane over the canyon that's right there and saw all the mountain biking opportunities there and fell in love with the spot. And so but it's our job to highlight it the best we can and give every single city the fighting chance. If I can get it all to you, to every single one, that would be great. But we try to do our best to be as best. They're all my children. I love them all equally. I don't have a favorite. My favorite is where I can land the project.
I have one more question for you, and that is, let's say that Scott has been out wooing an international company, and we join, and now that international company is talking to you, and yet we had contact with them first. How does that work?
Right. Really, that would be something that I would work on with Scott. So if Scott brings me into a project to lend some help or assistance, Scott's the lead. So if Scott got the project first, he's the lead on that project and I'm here to help. If that company comes to me and say, hey, we've been talking to Scott and the site in Murrieta isn't the perfect fit, do you have anything else? I will see what else I can find in the region, because again, it's my job to get them as close as I possibly can to the region. I will of course let Scott know that that's happening. I don't want to lose it for the region just because one community doesn't have the perfect right fit for it. But I am always honest and transparent because he's going to find out right anyways, right? So it's my job to try to help as I can. But that's his lead, that's his lead.
Okay. I think that was all my questions for right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Warren. Councilmember DeForest.
Thank you, Mayor. Scott, you mentioned a regional voice or a regional presence, and then you mentioned all the places that we are at as well. So if we join the EDC, we're already at the table, we're already at the events. What do you think that will add to the presence or help Murrieta get something to our region that we would like to have?
Yeah, there's a reason why Murrieta is not the only party that goes to ICSC, for example, that you'll see the County of Riverside, you'll see Team California, you'll see the EDC. What you're doing is creating regional awareness, and then we're trying to narrow it down to Murrieta awareness. So it doesn't hurt to have multiple parties that are out pursuing the same options, especially at organizations like ICSC where there might be 40,000 people in the room. As hard as I try to talk to every single one of them, sometimes somebody gets missed. Somebody's on a bathroom break, I don't catch them, and so it's really great to have multiple parties that are really trying to promote the region.
Thank you. And then I have one other question. So I remember being in a meeting and talking about our region, and things were being thrown around like Napa at the time.
Yes.
And it was Temecula-centric.
Yes.
Not that we don't love our neighboring community, but we are Murrieta-centric. And we have a lot to offer as well. So how do you think that if we join, that you can help that feeling of it being a Murrieta-centric EDC?
Right, and that's a great question. And that's, again, I think to the point of not having a seat at the table. I don't think we would have gotten down that road to it being a Temecula-centric conversation if Scott had been there to say, hey, I hate that idea, which he probably would have said. I know he would have said that. And to be honest, one of the feedback we got from the FAM tour was the site selector said, when I heard wine country, I expected rural agricultural area, which we certainly have some of that, but he said it is much more developed. There's a lot more going on here than I had in my mind when I heard that. And that made me think we might be a little bit too close to this on this branding thing, and it should be more open-ended. We shouldn't go into it with a particular thing in mind. That meeting on March 11th, where we're going to be talking about the funding structure, we're also going to be talking about the regional branding initiative. What I'm going to be asking the cities is to say, we need to have Murrieta brought back into the fold, and I know Murrieta won't come back into the fold if we're gonna brand the whole thing the Temecula Valley. We still need to do a regional marketing effort with a reputable agency that's gonna help us walk through that, but we need to go into it open-ended without the decision already in mind and let them tell us what the experts think it should be called. It may still end up Temecula Valley at the end. I don't know what they'll come up with. I think they'll probably come up with something different, but I can't say what that result will be, but I'm gonna ask them to be open-minded about it and not go into it with that decision in mind, so that we can have your voice at the table. I'm sure sharing with them that you don't love that idea and shaping that to what it maybe ought to be. And then to the broader sense of how we're doing our work. On our website, every single community has their own page on the website. So it's not just the Temecula Valley. And after the branding, you'll still have your own web page on the website, clearly with your branding, with your marketing, with your messaging on there, with whatever data you'd like to have on that website. We have a map of the region that includes all of the communities, and that will remain on there so that every community is equally highlighted on there. No one community over the other, because there's no really value in me only representing one community, because that's the reason to have a regional organization, is to bring in all the resources and assets that we have throughout the region.
Thank you so much, Connie. One other question, could we have an exit strategy if it comes back to Temecula Valley?
I am gonna say
I don't mean to leave you speechless, but
no, yeah, I think that's where it comes down to that issue of when the times get hard and we don't want coming and going and coming and going. I really think that for the other communities, that if to have you come back in, they want you to, I think everyone wants us to be whole, you know, but I don't think they want a repeat of the past, where maybe something isn't the best, and rather than working on it collaboratively and getting through it, we kind of cut our losses and leave. We don't want to take our ball and go home just because it didn't go the way we wanted it to, but it's definitely not going to go the way you want it to go if you're not at the table. Like, it will, I'm fairly certain it will end up Temecula Valley. That's what, they're all fine with that. And if you're not there at the table, and for me to leverage them to say we should have it be more open-ended, to have you back at the table and have your voice at the table saying that's not the right decision, that's very likely the way it could go.
aren't you saying though, Connie, that we're one voice of all the cities? So one voice isn't gonna be the, you know, it sounds to me like that if everyone else is happy with Temecula Valley, then.
It's not like a straight democracy in that room though, right? I think it's a conversation, and I think the conversation can be persuaded.
And that would be by Scott.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
So,
Yes.
thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember DeForest. Scott, I have some questions for you. And I'm going to bring up the chamber here because we are a partner with economic development with our chamber. Aren't you collaboratively working with Patrick right now to bring businesses and high-wage jobs to Murrieta?
Yes.
Thank you. With regards to international trades, isn't it true that we have a medical science out of the Netherlands that is looking to open up a facility here for children on the spectrum?
Yes, actually, Superfamily will be in the United States at the beginning of March. They have already spoken to a developer that we've introduced them to as they look to develop a building that they could bring the first of its kind medical facility to the United States. So we have currently 5 international companies. 2 are from the Netherlands. We've signed each of those through the Select USA Conference, which is part of the U.S. Department of Commerce that we go to each year with the governor's office. We also have a startup from Canada, one from Italy, and I'm forgetting a country right now, but I think it might be Mexico. Okay. So we've been very successful in getting some international startups. When we talk about international startups, they're not physically in the building, although they get visas and have time to come travel to the United States, so they're here from time to time, but they usually work virtually with us and attend some of our meetings virtually, and from time to time come out and visit with us in person.
But we do have some international companies moving to Murrieta.
Yes.
Thank you. Would you say that between you and the Chamber of Commerce that we do an exceptional job in marketing the city of Murrieta?
We absolutely do an exceptional job in marketing the city of
I'm
Murrieta.
going to absolutely agree. And has the city of Murrieta, along with the Chamber of Commerce, done fam tours?
So we don't call them FAM tours. So there's I think a difference. I think when Connie speaks about a FAM tour, and she can correct me if I'm wrong, she's usually talking about working directly with the Site Selectors Guild and site selectors from that organization. We don't directly pursue the Site Selectors Guild, although the opportunity is coming up to go to one of their events. But we do tours of the city of Murrieta with site selectors, with developers, with tenants, with real estate brokers, all the time,
And definitely with strategic industry targeting,
constantly.
absolutely. So yes and yes. And we have foreign direct investments coming to Murrieta. And we also are proactive in the Innovation Center and the Chamber with life sciences as well, correct?
We are proactive. Actually, I will caution and temper my words by simply saying right now, as the development is starting in the center, we're going out for the RFP for the contractor. We are slowing our recruitment because we don't want to bring in tenants in
Correct.
the middle of a construction
Temporary,
zone, but that is on
yes.
purpose and that is with thought. And there is a big ramp-up period that's going to happen after that when we really want to start pursuing the tenants that will fit that
Right.
space.
And would you say that you are actively soliciting green tech jobs for Murrieta?
Absolutely.
Okay, another yes. And definitely between you and the Chamber of Commerce that you are advocating for local employment and businesses to get off the freeway and open their businesses here and find jobs for our residents here locally. Would you say that you and Patrick are actively marketing that?
Yeah, a good example of that would be the Work Local Job Fair, whose very purpose is to take local jobs and connect them to local workers. That's definitely one of the initiatives we do.
And you're actively working with our healthcare providers in marketing the city of Murrieta to bring unique medical professional employment here as well?
Yeah, as a priority, that would be one of the top.
Yes, I would agree with that. Between you and the chamber, is there some sort of data-driven approach to reach?
Yes, so, and I'll separate the swim lanes here a little bit. The city of Murrieta employs its own data consultancy firm, the Retail Coach, who does more than just retail data. But we have our own data port and do our own set of data. It's all very Murrieta specific. And obviously the Chamber of Commerce and the other arms that they have, for example, Explore Murrieta does a data approach to tourism. So there's kind of parallel swim lanes and data going on, but they're not necessarily blended together.
Right. And the piggyback on Councilwoman DeForest, we are at the same conventions, events, business-related networking as the EDC, such as ICSC and anything else that you can.
Yes, and I would say that's to Connie's credit that the EDC has now gotten engaged in these organizations because I think that that was something that was severely lacking in the past.
Okay, great. Thank you for answering all my questions. What I'd like to point out to my fellow colleagues is all these questions were on Connie's presentation. And we're doing everything that the EDC is doing. And I think that our Economic Development Director, Scott Agajanian, who I think walks on water, along with Patrick Ellis, I think they're doing a fantastic job. To spend between $30,000 and $42,000, depending on the population-based model, I think it's duplicating efforts, in my opinion. And so with that said, yes, I'm going to go in line here. Councilwoman DeForest.
Thank you, Mayor. Connie, just to kind of go back, you've been EDC for
A little over 2 years.
2 years. What is your most, what is some of the things that you're most proud of that you have been part of this region for?
That most recent lithium-ion battery manufacturing recruitment, those are technical high-wage jobs. And not only that, but it's one of the only, if not the only, lithium-ion battery manufacturing to onshore into the United States. It's incredibly important for the supply chain for lithium-ion batteries, which power everything from your phones to your laptops to cars. And as we continue to grow as a region with the Salton Sea, and as that continues to grow, there's going to be more opportunity for that particular company to grow, but also to grow that industry in the region. And I think that's an incredibly important part of our economy going forward. I'm also really proud of the work that we've been able to do on our commuter workforce. Before I got here, that data, I called everywhere. I called MZ and Esri, I called the gentleman at the county who does the data, couldn't find that data on it. And everyone just said, yeah, it's really hard not to crack. Well, we were able to get a lot of that data that no one else was able to get, and that took a lot of hard work pouring through lots of data so we could do that for our community members to support our existing businesses, not only to work on recruiting businesses, but to help grow our existing economy and businesses that are invested here in our region. And the website, honestly, if you looked at the website, I don't know if you remember what it looked like a couple of years, and I could barely remember what it was, but it wasn't doing the region any justice and any service. And we built that all in-house. And we're really trying to make every single dollar that goes into the organization go as far as possible. And so we did that in-house. It was a lot of work, but we did it, and it looks, in my opinion, 1,000 times better than it did before, without having to spend $30,000 to go out and have someone build a website for us that's going to be out of date in a couple of years. We're really trying to be really mindful of every single dollar so that we can use that on activities that actually bring in jobs and an investment into the region.
Thank you. And where is the lithium-ion battery?
So right now they are using the TVE2 for their office space while they continue to find a location. So they are still settling on a building location in the region, but they've already announced that they're coming to this region. So that's, I mean, could end up in Murrieta. It's not determined yet. They need about 40,000 square feet of space for their initial plant. So they're finishing up their financing. They're working on that, and we have a meeting with them tomorrow on their financing. So as soon as they got that lined up, they should be making a decision on a building quite soon.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Councilmember DeForest. Mayor Pro Tem Warren.
Thank you. As our mayor pointed out, we are doing what you are doing. What can you bring to the table that's going to be different, better, terrific, and give us more of an edge of getting different types of introductions to businesses that we can't get on our own?
Well, you know, Scott is amazing, I will say you that, but there's only so many hours in a day, and there's only so much that a team can do. And so, for example, at Select USA, which I know Scott attends, I am booked all day long, top to bottom, with meetings. I could have more meetings if I could clone myself and figure out how to do that. And it's the same at ICSC and other events and things like that. We're really trying to go out there and amplify and leverage our collective work together. So when we go to shows together, if I'm meeting with somebody and they're a good fit for Murrieta, I can pull Scott and say, Scott, here's this company that he may not have had a chance to meet with otherwise because he's so busy doing what he's doing and trying to meet as many people. We're trying to really amplify that and just bring more resources to the table. This commuter workforce thing we're doing that on behalf of the entire region, trying to draw, to amplify what the work he's already doing with the job fairs, but to do that digitally and to get more data so that he has data tools to add to his message that he's talking to companies about who is our commuting workforce and what are their skills in the industries that they're already working in. And there are some things like our Site Selectors Guild. I think sounds like he's considering going to that one, but that's one that up to this point, most of the other communities in the region haven't attended. And I'm going to represent the entire region on their behalf at those events. And I just went on a trade mission to Taiwan in November, where I met with accelerators and incubators there and lots of businesses. I was the only person invited to go on that trade mission by the companies in Taiwan. There were no other economic developers on that trip, just me. They're representing the entire region. And they want to have me come back on an annual basis, potentially. And so, again, that's an opportunity. I would think it would be incredibly valuable for us as a region to put together a trade mission where we can all go together. But, in those lieu of those opportunities, I'm there trying to get as many opportunities for the region as I can.
My last question would be to Mr. Agajanian. Would us joining this program be an asset to you as our economic developer director?
Certainly. I think that the word amplify is exactly what I would try to target on. We do attempt to do everything we possibly can. I'm never going to sit before you and say that we're not doing everything we can to recruit business here, but this is one more person who is a legitimate economic developer, and I think that's the key to understanding the CDC. I know we've seen it in the past, but Connie's a legitimate economic developer. She's out there doing recruitment. She's out there doing the work. And so that's one more person that's on your team trying to help.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Warren. Councilmember Holliday.
Scott, do you know offhand what our economic development budget is?
Yeah, do we want to parse it into Measure T? But let's
No,
just jump
overall.
in. I think it's about 250,000 plus 100,000 measure. It's around 350.
350. I was just trying to see what percentage of this, would this come out of your budget?
10%-ish. Yeah.
This would come out of your budget?
We would probably have to come back before your council with the mid-year adjustment or next fiscal cycle adjustment to make it fit, because I don't think that we've already pretty much earmarked most of the funds that we have.
Okay. And as far as the branding goes, the EDC back in the day, along with what was the county agency, the Southwest,
Oh,
what was the name of the county? It was the Economic Development Agency or
yeah,
something.
that's through the county.
They were over there by the post office.
Yeah.
The EDC and the county agency tried to brand this area as Southwest California. Have you heard of that?
I have heard that, yeah.
How well did that work?
Not great. And the Valley of Innovation didn't work great. And I don't know how that particular effort went with the Southwest California, but I know the most recent one, Valley of Innovation, I think it was a bunch of regional people who came into a room and tried to figure it out. And branding a region is incredibly difficult. It is one of the hardest things to undertake. In fact, it's been one of the things I've been dreading the most, because it is so rife with challenge, because everyone has a different viewpoint about what their community looks like, what the region means to them, what's the most important to them, and how they think they're being perceived. And we've requested proposals from maybe it's 4 now, 4 national agencies that do this for organizations all across North America, and some of them do it globally, because one of the things they do is they get feedback from corporate executives about what their perceptions of the region are. And sometimes when you're too close to it, like the example we got from that site selector who said when he heard Temecula Valley wine country, he thought it was just rural agricultural land. Sometimes you don't see what other people see when they hear it. And a prime example is me. When I was looking at this region and I was researching it, I heard Inland Empire, and I was like, oh, that's an interesting name. And then I come down here and I realize everybody hates it, And so sometimes your perspective is vastly different than what others might perceive it to be, or what you think it ought to be. And so it's hard. It's going to be a really hard thing. And I think the more people that we have around the table who are really passionate about their communities, who really know their communities, the better outcome we're going to have. If we just sit around the table, we're going to end up with another Valley of Innovation, and it's not going to stick, and it's going to waste everybody's time.
Do you know what this area is called now? What most people refer to this area of these cities?
What do they call it?
Southwest Riverside County.
Okay. Well, that's how we're with EDC of Southwest Riverside, California. It's EDC SWCA, but that's a mouthful.
It is. I wouldn't recommend that. I know people are saying, how do you change something that most people recognize this area as Southwest Riverside County, which is geographically where we are?
Yeah, and there has to be a geographic indicator, right, as to where you are. But I'm going to say most people in the country don't know where Riverside County is.
No.
Even though it's one of the most populous counties in the country, if you said Riverside County to somebody in Chicago, they're not going to be able to pinpoint it on
Yeah,
a map.
we're like a stepchild of some larger counties, for sure.
It's going to be challenging. It's not going to be easy.
But I
It's going to be
guarantee
really
you,
hard.
regardless of what all the other cities are saying at the table, that Temecula Valley is fine, if you try and brand this area as Temecula Valley, I guarantee no other city besides Temecula is going to use it. There's no way that Menifee is going to say, hey, we're part of Temecula Valley. No way.
They've been at the table and have been part of the process, and I know Scott's had conversations with them.
I just know cities.
I will only say, surprisingly, Menifee has been a big advocate of the Temecula Valley moniker.
Really?
From the city that's going to be the largest population in Southwest Riverside County, it surprises me.
I'm not going to say who brought it to me. Someone brought that idea, the Napa Valley idea, to me, and I said, okay, that's an idea, and I just let it sit because I didn't think anyone else was going to be for it. And then Menifee came to me and they're like, hey, we heard this idea. And I was like, oh, you like that idea? I mean, I guess we can hash it out and see what everyone else thinks. I was surprised too. I really think there's value in having an organization that does this for communities to do it. One, so that we can have some perception studies done so we understand what the perception is of the region, but so that we do it right. You know, I don't want to have to roll out a whole plan. Marketing for the region is expensive and takes a lot of time and effort if it's not going to be the right decision. And again, sure. I think we should have your voice at the table that says, I don't love this idea. I think it should be different. Yeah. There's value to that.
And I have a procedural question for our assistant city manager. We're not voting on this today.
No.
It's just a workshop, correct?
That is correct. And actually, I did enter the queue to speak. I unfortunately have to point out that we have a fairly full closed session. We're about 15 minutes over for that. Oh. And this is an important item, and it sounds like it may merit some more discussion, but we probably should start to wrap
So we'll
up
see this on a future agenda?
That as a consensus, that could be, there's a couple of ways to get there. You may want to have a conversation during your regular individual weekly meetings with the city manager. You could also act on consensus, but not a vote.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. And we are going to, I'm sorry. Madam City Clerk, are there any public comments regarding this discussion item?
Seeing none.
Okay. The workshop ends and we are going to go into closed session. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I apologize. Prior to going into closed session, there are no public comments for that, but I'd like to say that the City Council will meet in closed session on 3 items as listed on the agenda. CS1, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation. You will conduct a closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1 to confer with legal counsel regarding one litigation case to which the city is a party, Procco versus City of Murrieta. CS2, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation. You will conduct a closed session with the city manager, with the assistant city manager, the administrative services director, and the city attorney pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.95B to consider the following workers' compensation claim, McMahon versus City of Murrieta. And the City Council will meet in CS3, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation. You will conduct a closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1 to confer with legal counsel regarding litigation to which the city is a party, and it's City of Grants Pass versus Johnson et al. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Oh, got it. Yes? Hello? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the February 6th meeting of the Murrieta City Council is now called to order. Madam City Attorney, announcement from closed sessions, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council met in closed session on 3 items. The first was existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1. The council was updated, no reportable action. The second one was existing litigation, also pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.95B. In that case, the council was also updated, no reportable action. And the third item, existing litigation involving the City of Grants Pass versus Johnson et al. The City Council unanimously authorized joining an amicus brief in support of the City of Grants Pass. Thank you.
Thank you. For roll call, would the City Clerk please call for roll call for a determination of a quorum, please?
Councilmember DeForest.
Here.
Councilmember Lavelle.
Here.
Councilmember Holliday.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Warren.
Here.
Mayor Stone.
Present.
Let the record reflect that all members are present.
Thank you. If everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember John Lavelle. Remain standing for the invocation led by Pastor Salvador Rango from Calvary Baptist Church.
Please repeat after me after you remove your hats and place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we're just thankful, Lord, for the blessings you've given to us Lord, that we can come and assemble together, Lord, freely and discuss all the blessings you've given to us here in the city of Murrieta. Lord, we invite you to the city council meeting, Lord, and as the city council members have studied, investigated, and researched, Lord, decisions that they may make tonight, Lord, just thank you for each one of them. Lord, bless them, give them wisdom, Lord, in the way they make decisions that are going to benefit not only the city of Murrieta, but as citizens and business, Lord, as we grow. And we thank you for them. Lord, I ask you also to bless all the first responders that during this time of storms that the city and the county's having. Lord, we thank you for each one of them. And Lord, our U.S. military, Lord, the things going on in the world that they all slide downhill, Lord, and come right here to the city of Murrieta. We have many of our citizens, Lord, are on active duty and reserve status, Lord, and we just ask you to bless them also. Lord, again, just bless the decisions that are being made tonight. May they all be made, Lord, to glorify you. And just thank you for all the blessings you've given to us. And we ask all these things in Jesus' mighty name, Lord, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Rangel. We're going to move on to presentations. Tonight, presentation is Santa Stops recognition, and Councilmember Holliday will lead us with that.
All right. Santa Stops, I'm sure that most everyone in the city is familiar that we had the Santa Stops back for the first time in a few years last year and was a resounding success. We have a lot of good feedback from the community. I would like to recognize a few departments on the staff side. The Community Service Department had about 20 different employees that played a vital role both before the Santa Stops and during the Santa Stops. Public Works was out there regularly picking up signs, moving them around, making sure they didn't get lost somewhere. Administrative Services with Risk Management, HR, IT, Diego's team was working behind the scenes for that as well, including the Santa Tracker app, which had some decent reviews. It's got some bugs to work out, but we're working on it. Finance, obviously, processing invoices they didn't know they had to process to the last minute for our sponsors. Of course, our Public Information office did a lot of work on the advertising, and City Manager's office, which probably hated me for a while since I brought this back, but they did a great job in making this happen. And PD with the live scan, man, what a heavy lift that was, because we changed schedules. We said we're going to be done by this date, and we weren't. We said we're not going to do it on the weekends, and we did. So live scan really stepped up and did a lot of things. So if there's any staff here that worked on the Santa Stops, could you stand for a minute, please? There's one. We appreciate, and of course, the fewer that are here, obviously there's probably a good 40 or 50 that aren't here, don't come to regular council meetings. And I know Brian and Laura were out there every single night in some form or fashion. Even when his daughter was coming back from college, you made sure that everything was going well. So special thank you to you, Brian, and pass that along to Laura as well. Now, on the volunteer side, if I could have Joni Wadowiak meet me down at that microphone. Oh, boy. There we go. Is that working? Good. So, even though it took an entire village to make this happen, it would not have happened if it had not been for you. She approached me when I was running for this seat and said, would I support bringing back the Santa Stops? And I had participated in the Santa Stops many times back in the day, and I'm like, sure, how hard can that be? Little did I know. but because of our amazing city staff and a ton of volunteers that Joni herded, sometimes like cats, trying to get them all organized in the right place at the right time, we have a certificate of recognition on behalf of the City of Murrieta and the entire City Council. We would like to thank you for your work on the Santa Stops program. Your dedication, passion, and valuable contribution to the City of Murrieta and its citizens are greatly appreciated.
Come up and take a picture, because I couldn't have done it without you guys. So if you guys could come up, the volunteers. Well done. That was wonderful, Councilmember Holliday. And again, Joni, thank you so much for everything that you did. It was really just so heartfelt to see hundreds of people at each stop. And what I loved about it was there were children that now are adults bringing their children. And they talked about how important this event was to them as a child. So hearing all the testimonials, even when the nights when it was really, really cold, people still came out. So thank you so much for all your efforts. We're going to move on to approval of the agenda. Yes. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Seeing none?
Call for a motion and a second, please. I think we see it. We have a motion and a second. If we please vote.
Motion carries unanimously, 5-0.
Thank you. Moving on to City Manager Administrative Update, and we have the pleasure of seeing our Assistant City Manager, Ivan Holler, here tonight. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 4 updates tonight, and I will start with Chief Conrad, who is going to give a presentation on e-bike safety.
Okay, good evening, Mayor Stone, Council. Thank you for having in front of you tonight to talk about a concern I know all of you have and we do as well, which is e-bikes in our city. So I have with me tonight my traffic sergeant, Steve Whidden. I consider Steve kind of my subject matter expert on this topic. And I've also tasked Steve with really looking at this and coming up with some solutions. So I'm going to hand it over to Steve, and when we're done, we're happy to answer any questions you have.
Good evening, Council. How are you? My name's Steve Whidden. I've been a police officer for 26 years and been my great privilege to be a police officer in the city of Murrieta for the past 20 years. I'm going to start this presentation off with a question that I had just a short time ago. What is an e-bike? A lot of people don't know. A lot of people buy things and they think they're e-bikes and they may not be. and that might be part of the problem that we're dealing with and we're trying to address currently. So I'm going to go over briefly what an e-bike is, what the actual vehicle code says, what isn't an e-bike, and then we'll go into how we're addressing some of these issues. According to the vehicle code, an e-bike is in 3 classes, a class 1, a class 2, and a class 3. A class 1 is defined as having a top speed of 20 miles per hour assisted, meaning that the child or the operator has to be pedaling, and with the energy of their pedaling, they can reach a maximum speed of 20 miles per hour. Anyone operating a bicycle, an e-bicycle like this, would have to wear a safety helmet under 18. Class 2 also has a top speed of 20 miles per hour, but that can be unassisted, meaning the operator doesn't have to pedal. They have a throttle similar to a motorcycle, and they're able to reach a speed of 20 miles per hour, and they can keep that speed, maintain that speed for sometimes up to 60 miles on a single charge. Class 3 has a top speed of 28 miles per hour, also unassisted. The difference here is that you have to be 16 years or older to operate, and any person operating it must wear a safety helmet. There's no exception, adults or children. This is what some people think is an electric bicycle, when in fact it's actually an electric dirt bike. It is unlawful to operate these on city streets and public highways. And the vehicle code, oftentimes when things come on in rapid popularity, is not prepared to deal with these things as well as we would like. The problem with this is they're easily modified. There's a green wire that usually runs underneath the seat to the battery that, if disconnected, allows the battery to give full power to the bike all at once. I was researching this recently, and this company that's probably the most popular manufacturer, Sur, is advertising one of these electric dirt bikes at a max speed of 75 miles per hour for 60 miles on a single charge. They're easily modified, and as far as I know, they're equipped with mountain bike brakes. They don't have pedals, and per the vehicle code, they are not a bicycle, okay? A lot of people are buying them and giving them to their children, and I think there's some education that needs to be addressed. They can be impounded if they're found on the streets. We have legal authority in the vehicle code to take them for up to 3 days and hold them. For up to 2 days. And unlicensed operator can be cited for driving a vehicle without a license. Now, if you're 16 years old and you're on your learner's permit, or you're trying to get your driver's license and you get one of these tickets for not operating without a license, that could delay you getting your driver's license until you're 18 years old. We're trying not to do that. We're coming out kind of with a soft approach, but as we progress, the approach is going to get more stringent. So how are we addressing all these issues? These are the trends that we're seeing, that I'm seeing almost weekly. A lot of the Sur motorcycles, the electric motorcycles, are being operated on our streets and causing a lot of complaints. A lot of our citizens are calling and saying that while out walking their pets, out walking their kids to school, enjoying the park, or whatever they're doing in our city, that they come upon a group or a single person on an electric motorcycle or an electric bicycle. They're often mistaken for each other, and they're afraid they're going to be run down. I had one report last week where a woman said she literally had to grab her dog and dive into the bushes to avoid being struck by a child on an electric bicycle. The increase with this popularity has caused a dramatic increase in crashes. And with those crashes, the severity of injuries are much different than on a regular bicycle. If you can imagine for a moment, when we grew up riding a bicycle, if you crashed into a car, you might scrape your knee at low speeds in your neighborhood. A car backs out of its driveway, you bump into it as it's backing out. Most of those weren't even reported to the police. Well, now a lot of them are being reported because the severity of injuries have increased so much. One of my motor officers off duty came upon 2 children unconscious on Jackson Avenue because they were riding 2 on one bike. It wasn't designed for that. When they went down the curb and came up the next curb, it launched them into the telephone pole. Both of them had concussions. I know of an adult who was involved in a traffic collision, and one of our witnesses said, I was speeding, I was going 55, and he flew past me. He fractured his spine. Luckily, he's not paralyzed, but it could have been life-changing for that young man. These injuries are a real concern for me. And with the increase in injuries, there's also an increase in property damage. Like I said a moment ago, when a bicycle normally crashed into a vehicle, you might have scratch paint, a minor dent. I'm having reports of vehicles that need new radiators. because the bicycles are traveling at such a great speed that when they strike the vehicle, it's causing serious damage. I think the biggest issue where we need to address here is twofold. It's uneducated operators and it's uneducated parents. And what I mean by uneducated operators is that these children that ride these electric bicycles don't know the rules of the road. They've never been to a driving class. They don't understand right-of-way. They don't understand that you shouldn't jump from the sidewalk into the street and cross anywhere you feel like it in an unexpected manner. When I say uneducated parents, I think that sometimes parents are just trying to do the right thing and they love their kids and they want to give them something that's fun to enjoy, but they're buying the electric dirt bike by mistake thinking that that's street legal. So how are we addressing this? We're addressing it in 3 different ways. Number 1 is enforcement. I've directed, as the chief has directed me, for my traffic team to go out and specifically look for the electric motorcycles that are in our city and stop them. On our first contact with them, we're doing a lot of education, a lot of warning. We're calling parents to the scene and we're asking them to come pick up their children and take their electric motorcycle back home. And we take that opportunity to tell them that this is not street legal, it's very dangerous, and we try to give them as quickly as we can an education on maybe some more practical modes of transportation for their children to get to and from school. With the uncooperative, if you will, or repeat offenders, we're going to be citing those people for the 12,500 section for driving without a license, for operating a vehicle without registration. These vehicles don't have brake lights, they don't have turn signals, and at night they're very, very hard to see. We will be impounding the electric dirt bikes and we'll be taking them and keeping them as long as we can per the law. We hopefully doesn't come to this, but eventually the vehicle code does allow us to cite the parents for providing a motor vehicle to a child, which can go up to a misdemeanor. Now, worst case scenario, I've had many conversations with our local, my DDA that files all of our fatal traffic collisions, and I have a good working relationship. And I was talking with her at length about where this could eventually go if somebody seriously is injured. And she's like, well, we eventually will charge the parents with child endangerment for providing their children with this type of vehicle that they're not prepared for to take onto the city streets. Our enforcement is a 3-fold response. We have our patrol response where somebody calls in and has a complaint, or a citizen calls in and has a complaint, and our patrol will respond to that. Specifically in our traffic operations, I'm directing my traffic officers throughout the year on certain days will be designated just specifically to address these types of issues. So they'll specifically spend their entire shift looking for and seeking out these types of violations so that we can cut it off. The last part of our enforcement, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about because I don't want to give away all of our tactical advantage, but we have a drone program that's very robust, and we'll be using everything and all the tools we have at our disposal, because the last thing any of us want to do is to be standing over some kid that's seriously injured or worse, okay? The second part to our approach is education. I believe the education is the most lacking thing when it comes to e-bikes and e-motorcycles. I partner with the Murrieta Valley Unified School District to reach our target audience, which is children. A lot of these children are taking their electric motorcycles and their electric bicycles to and from school. We are implementing a parking permit program where we all know currently if you're a licensed driver and you're in high school and you want to take your car to school, you have to have a permit to park on campus. Well, we're going to adopt the same type of policy for children that want to park their electric bicycle or electric scooter on campus. The great part about that is that we're providing them with a free e-bike safety course that we will bring to the children. We will actually be teaching it. Myself and my motor team will go to the schools and teach this on an as-needed basis as often as we need to. The chief has assured me that I have all the time in the world that we need to get this accomplished. The classes are designed to be interactive, where I don't want it to be a lecture. I don't want it to be something that the kids see us as an adversary. I'd really like to bridge the gap between the law enforcement and the kids and the parents, so that you know, we all understand what's at stake. At the end of the class, there will be an inspection of the bicycle to make sure that it's actually safe for the roadway, that the brakes are working, that it has reflectors, that it's operable, that it's working in the way that it was designed to be, and that hadn't been tampered with or had been souped up to exceed the speeds higher than 28 miles per hour. Another arm of our education will be to use our social media campaign, to where if parents have a question, they want to go buy an e-bike or an e-dirt bike for their children, what should they be looking for and what should they be avoiding? And we'll be able to address that with our social media campaign. And then lastly, like I mentioned earlier, the California Vehicle Code is behind as far as it comes to addressing these types of issues, and so unfortunately is our municipal code. I will be working with our city attorney and trying to get our municipal codes up to date so they can address some of these serious issues that I've talked to you about today. A few of the things that I would like to see would be posted areas for no e-bikes at all. When we have special events like the city birthday or the farmers market on Washington Avenue, because those are closed events, I can't enforce the vehicle code at those events. I'm not allowed to because it's a closed course. But I could if there was a municipal code that would just allow us to put up a sign, no e-bikes. That way people could walk and push their strollers and walk with their children and not have to be worried about a kid wrecking into them at 28 miles per hour. I'd like to address speed limits in certain areas in the city. I would like to make it a law to where they have to yield the right-of-way to pedestrians on the sidewalk. All of this would also include e-scooters. I'm not talking about them a lot because primarily my issues have been with the e-bicycles, but I don't want to leave any of these things undealt with. We're going to create a municipal code book that will be issued out to all of our law enforcement officers that will address all these specific issues so that if a child is riding without their helmet or a child is wearing earbuds and operating their e-bike or in an unsafe manner, all of these will be administrative citations. And instead of it being punitive where we're actually charging and taking money from the families, I would like them to have to attend another I'd like them to have to attend another e-bike safety course in lieu of a fine. That way we just keep hammering away at the education part of this, which I think is, like I said earlier, is what we're missing most. I've talked about a lot in a very brief amount of time. I'd love to answer any of your questions if you had any.
Can I just add something to the end of Steve's presentation? Great detail, I appreciate that. My traffic unit has looked really closely at this, talked to peer cities, but I think what's most important here is, yes, we can impound some of these vehicles. Yes, ultimately we can make an arrest, but I don't think that'll be the solution to this. I think the solution will be, one, we have an amazing partnership with our school district. So we've already engaged them in this process, and that's going to be huge leverage for us to get the bikes that want to be on the campus. They can't go to the campus unless they come to us first. Second thing is the relationship we have with the community. So the outreach part that Steve's talking about through social media, education, yes, enforcement will come into play. Yes, we will attack the Muni Code problem if we think there is one and petition the city attorney for that and bring it to you. But I think we'll get a lot of this issue solved with the education and the outreach that we're going to start. You've seen a little bit of it, but we're going to start getting heavier on it, and we're very close. And correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, we are very close with our partnership with Murrieta Valley, where we're actually going to do a course for the students that are wanting to take an e-bike onto campus.
Yes, we're ready to go live anytime now. I've created a PowerPoint classroom presentation. I'm almost done with it. We could teach this class in a few days if we wanted to.
Great, fantastic. Councilmember Lavelle, you have a question.
Thank you, Mayor Stone. Thank you both for the presentation, and I know this has been top of mind on a lot of different conversations, at least from my perspective. The question, the schools, are you guys able to patrol in the school bicycle parking lots now to see if there are violators of these types of motorcycles being on campus currently? Or is that something that will have to be set up later? Go ahead.
Yeah, we can patrol those areas now, and we know that people are operating them, and when we find them, we contact them and call their parents. But this will be more of that, more of a rollout of that. But yes, currently we do that.
Okay.
There's an SRO at every high school and middle school in our city as well. They know all the students. So easily for traffic to sit down with the SROs and say, okay, who's got what, where do they live? We easily can get that intel right now, so.
Yeah, I would imagine that there is a significant difference when you hear a Suron coming down the road with knobbies versus a Super 73 with pedals, right? It's very obvious, and I assume that's something they're looking out for now, and we'll tell you guys if it comes up.
There's also an Assembly Bill 530 that's going through right now. It hasn't been voted into law, but Assembly Bill 530 will make it unlawful for anyone under age 12 to operate an e-bicycle. I don't know if that's going to pass or not. I suspect it might because of some of the tragedies that have already occurred in the state. So that's going to eliminate part of it.
Okay. Can we go back to the slide with that calls out the three differences of the classifications of bikes, please? Just to clarify, for the Class 3, the only place that should ever be ridden is essentially a Sur-Ron, would be a private track.
That's not a Sur-Ron, sir.
Oh,
A Class 3 is street legal. It is considered an electric bicycle.
so a Class 3 has pedals.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
It just also has a throttle, and it doesn't need to be pedaled.
Okay, so then a Sur-Ron would not even be considered an e-bicycle.
It is not.
Correct.
It's an
yeah.
e-motorcycle, and I think their base speed is 55 miles an hour.
Okay. The Class 3, where are these allowed to ride in the city?
Anywhere a bicycle can go, a bike trail, bike path. There was state law recently that's passed that there were some counties and cities, municipalities that were not allowing people to use e-bikes on bike paths. That's been struck down. They can ride them on anywhere a bicycle legally could go, bike lanes,
Okay.
things like that.
And that's all classes of e-bikes can go anywhere a bicycle can go?
They're looked at in the vehicle code as a bicycle.
Okay, and it would be safe to assume if you see a Sur-Ron anywhere in the city on any roads, that would be illegal?
It is.
Yeah, okay. Thank you again both for doing this. This is, if you haven't seen the Facebook post about all the videos that people are taking, I mean, it is something that has gotten out of hand really fast because of the access. I mean, you can order these things on Amazon right now and go pick them up at bike shop. So, and they're, on the other side, they're great machines for what their intended use will be on a track. So thank you. And then my last question is maybe for our PIO, are we gonna do outreach through our social media from the city about maybe these campaigns they're doing with the school in conjunction or independently? Okay.
Everything that I put out through the department goes to the PIO.
Okay. Awesome. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Lavelle. Mayor Pro Tem Warren.
Thank you. Great presentation, gentlemen. When are bikes not allowed on a sidewalk?
They're always allowed on a sidewalk when there's no bicycle lane.
Okay,
So if a child's riding in his neighborhood around his cul-de-sac, they can be on the sidewalk. If there's a bike lane available, they should be using the bicycle lane. But ask that question to a kid and they don't know.
Right.
So they ride anywhere they want. And then the thing is too, I want to answer your question, I hope I did. They drive in an unpredictable manner. So they'll go from the sidewalk to the street, back to the park, and they literally will have their earbuds in, listening to their favorite music. They just don't know.
right, I agree. The other thing I've noticed also is double riding on one bike. And so many, I have seen crashes because of that. And are you going to be also addressing that issue with the
Of course,
kids?
yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great,
Yes,
thank you.
because if it's not, some are designed for that, to two passenger. Some are, some aren't. We have to look in on case by case, but yeah, we don't want that because the two kids that my officer found unconscious were riding 2-on-1.
Yeah, especially not on the handlebars. I'm sure that's probably not a good idea. Thank you so much. Great job, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Warren. Steve, first, I just want to thank you for your years of service. So stay safe. I have one request. Market nights, which is on the first and third Thursday. I have been down there and I have seen them in groups of minimum of 5. And they are not respectful. Is there any way that we could ask a volunteer peace officer or a few to be down there, at least request that they be down there during market nights?
I have an answer for you. I would love to talk to you about later. I have a plan in place, so there's things in the works more than volunteers that will be addressing the issue. I'm very aware of what's going on at the Farmers Night. It's just that the issue is that it's because it's a closed road, it eliminates the vehicle code unless they're
Correct.
driving drunk or I understand. I was at the city birthday. I saw Cobra Kai coming through the fields. It can be intimidating.
So just, I understand about the municipal code, but, just having the presence down there,
we'll be
just
there, ma'am.
walking. Okay, thank you so much for your presentation.
All right. Thank you, Chief Conrad, Sergeant Whidden. Appreciate your presentation. Next, we'll go to Leah Kolek, and she has an update on the Parks and Rec Master Plan.
All right. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council. My name is Leah Kolick, and I'm the Parks and Community Services Manager for the city. I am very excited to bring this particular update to you. Community Services is in the process of coordinating the city's first ever Trails Master Plan, as well as updating its 2009 Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Now, these are to be two completely separate documents. The Trails Master Plan will serve as a guide and implementation tool for the management and development of a connected, multi-use trails network for the city. Planning efforts will focus on improved enhancements, access, identification, and connectivity to other city trails, as well as other agency trails. There is to be 3 workshops to gain public input. The first workshop is set for next Thursday, February 15th, from 6 to 8 p.m. at Alderwood Clubhouse. The 2 subsequent workshops will take place in March and April. If residents are unable to attend any of these workshops, they can provide feedback on the website that the city's consultant has set up at Murrieta Trails masterplan.com. Staff is very much looking forward to hearing the wonderful thoughts and ideas from the public and what they might have. Now, the update to the 2009 Parks and Recreation Master Plan is to be a completely separate document. The City of Murrieta's recreational facilities, programs, and park amenities are essential to the composition of the city. And its community as well as its residents. The document will guide decision-making regarding the policy and contains an inventory and assessment of the recreation programs and services, park facilities, operations, maintenance, and possible capital improvements to be made over the coming years. That will enhance the quality of life for the city of Murrieta. Staff is currently finalizing the 3 separate workshops for the Parks and Recreation Master Plan update, and advertising for those 3 separate workshops should be posted next week on the city's Facebook page and website. The first one will be in March, the next one in April, and the last one will be in May. Different sites, different locations throughout Murrieta. This will also, the Parks and Recreation Master Plan update will also have a feedback link in its standalone portal for any individual that is unable to attend these workshops. So once again, staff is looking forward to hearing from the public what they have to say, what they would like, what they don't like. And we're excited to be presenting all of these wonderful prioritized projects to City Council in the coming years. So that concludes my update, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you, Leah.
Okay.
Appreciate that. And then next we have Christina Davies, our acting PAO, and she's going to give you kind of an overview on a community update.
All the fun stuff that's happening. Good evening. So I am here just to give a little update on what's going on in Murrieta. First, I'm going to start off with some library spotlight events. As many of you might know, we have a lot of things going on at the library. So these are only just 2 of the events. It's been raining, those after school hours. If you want to take the kids, you can go to Joyful Minds Meditation, and that is happening actually tomorrow for ages 6 to 12. And then on Fridays, we have Chess Club at the library. The next event I'm going to talk about is Market Nights, and that's going to be on February 15th, 5 to 9. Of course, I don't know if some of you know, but I'm actually a meteorologist, so I will keep an eye on the weather for Market Nights, and I'll make sure to let everyone know. Some more events, this is later on in the month. I'll touch on it again to make sure that everyone knows, but on February 27th, we will have coffee with the city, and that is just your time to come out, meet our city leaders, and ask any of your questions. And then upcoming events later on in March, we will have our egg extravaganza, and that is going to be a fabulous time. Lots of eggs for kids to find out on the grass. Let's talk about some news. I am so excited to share Murrieta was voted Best City. This was done by the Inland Empire magazine. Readers voted, and this year they actually ranked the votes. Murrieta was #1. And then another fun update, Murrieta Hot Springs Resort opened and city staff attended the ribbon cutting. I added a photo on there of city staff at this ribbon cutting. And I just want to leave everyone who may be watching online to stay connected with Murrieta. We have our monthly newsletter, and that will have all the updates you'll need. It'll have some of the Parks and Recs, their Trails Master Plan workshops on there. And then, of course, as PD puts out information, we'll also share that and Fire. So it's really a really good resource if you are interested in staying connected with Murrieta. And that is my update.
And then finally, Mayor Stone, I have an update related to the voting information in the upcoming election. Yesterday, February 5th, the vote by mail period began for the primary election. The city will have 3 vote by mail sites. The first one will be at Fire Station number 4, which is off of Baxter Road by Loma Linda University Medical Center. The other 2 will be at the library and right here in City Hall. And then also Fire Station number 4 and the library will be available for in-person voting as we get closer to the election. If anyone has any questions on these, please contact Crystal McDonald, our city clerk, and that concludes the rather lengthy city manager administrative update this evening.
Thank you, Assistant City Manager Holler, and thank you to our entire city team that gave great presentations tonight. We're going to move on to governing body commissions, committee board reports. The governing body reports is an opportunity for the City Council to provide a brief report on conferences, seminars, and commission, committees, and/or board meeting attendance. I'm going to flip my thing over, and we're going to start with Councilmember DeForest.
Thank you, Mayor. I was honored to attend the Animal Friends of the Valley low-cost spay and neuter clinic grand opening on behalf of the entire council, and being an alternate, I thank Councilmember Lavelle for letting me attend that, and it was my pleasure. It is a beautiful facility that has everything from spay and neuters, cats and dogs, to bunny, rabbits, and guinea pigs. So it's a one-stop shop, and they look forward to serving our community as well. And that is it. If you'd like to get a hold of me, there's my email and my cell. So thank you so much. Back to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember DeForest. Next up is Councilmember LaBelle.
I have no updates other than you're welcome, Councilmember DeForest.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember LaBelle. Next is Councilmember Holliday.
I have no updates because apparently with a little bit of rain, they canceled all the meetings on Monday. So we'll have
Thank
to
you,
wait till next month.
Councilmember Holliday. Next is Mayor Pro Tem Warren.
I have an update. On the 17th of January, I attended the RTA Board of Directors meeting, and I wanted to let you know that they're still giving free rides, continue through June 8th on all local commuter links and Go micro buses. Also, ridership is up, which is a good thing. It is up, December was 436,183, which is up 10% compared to the same time fiscal year last year. This report will also be on the website if you want to read more about it. But the minor changes, there's going to be about a couple, 20 routes that have been made to ensure service efficiency, better connections, and improve on-time performance. So please check with the RTA website for those new updates. Also, I wanted to also let you know that the board awarded an agreement to Creative Business Bus Sales and AZ Bus Sales for the purchase of Dial-A-Ride fleet vehicles so that we will have more vehicles in our fleet for the Dial-A-Ride program, which is very important. And well, the whole commission agreed, and we voted on it. The RTA will become a signatory to the Transportation Leadership Against Human Trafficking Initiative to increase efforts to educate employees and passengers on warning signs. So that, I think, is a big improvement and keeping our people safe throughout our bus system. On the 25th and 26th of January, I attended the RCTC annual workshop. Two big things came out of that. The Coachella Valley Rail Project was unanimously affirmed to move forward, as was the State Route 79 realignment project was also unanimously voted to move forward, directing staff to develop an agreement with the California Department of Transportation to modify State Route 79 realignment project from a state route to a future county expressway. And we are also going to be starting the alignment process with Alternative A, which is the Newport Road to Domagonian Parkway. So look for a lot of stuff happening in that. And I will be attending my next meeting next week, and we'll report out at our next meeting. That concludes my reports. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. As far as myself, Assistant City Manager Kristen Crane and myself went to the Cal City's Mayor and Council Conference, and you can review my entire report. It's a long report on our website. But for staff, I want to let you know that we talked about the budget with regards to transportation, public safety, housing, and community services, so you may want to review my report as well. In addition, for a list of recent letters in opposition and support on behalf of the city, you may visit the Legislative Affairs page on our website. And that concludes my governing body announcements. Moving on to public comments. Any person may address the governing bodies on any subject pertaining to city business. Normally, no action may be considered or taken by the governing bodies or any matter not listed on the agenda. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Requests for more time must be made to the city clerk with a timing limited to a maximum of 6 minutes. Madam City Clerk, are there any public comments?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Monty Legatt. Yes, right up to the podium.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. The reason I'm here is because, well, I was hoping that the traffic officer would still be here, but he wasn't. But I live close, Robards Way, just off of Jackson, north of Nutmeg. My street is posted at 25 miles an hour, but the issue is I might be kind by saying 10% of the people coming down my street actually adhere to the speed limit. So it's gotten pretty bad where the safety of anybody getting their cars on the street, because there's a lot of folks who park on the street. And when I have my son over with my granddaughters and we're trying to put in their car seats, the people flying by at 30 and 40 miles an hour on a daily basis is ridiculous. Now, the times specifically between like 7 and 9 and maybe 2 and 5 when people are going and coming from work is when they are just flying. There's just no disregard for anybody walking in the street or getting in their cars. Matter of fact, if I'm backing up into my driveway, they're quick to even just buzz around me before I even can make the turn. So it's just become so serious. But 3/4 of the way down my street is a stop sign. It's Elizabeth Way. That stop sign must be a symbol for drag racing, because as soon as they hit that thing, it's on to Jackson. I have another side street 1/4 of the way down. It's Bouvier. It doesn't have a stop sign. Perfect place for a motor officer. I mean, I just read where 72 citations were given in like a day. You want 20 in like 2 hours? Come to my street, and I'm serious. But I'm not asking specifically for an officer to be there, but it'd be nice to have things slow down. Now, I understand social media can be our enemy because people jump on there and start warning people about when there's an officer. But believe me, I will erase any one of those comments I see on Neighbors or Facebook. It'll be gone. But I'm asking for a couple strategic speed bumps on my street. They don't have to be big, but small enough, like the ones that are like around the Hot Springs area where they're just larger, but yet will slow down traffic. It's gonna be just a matter of time. I got an 83-year-old man. He's a Vietnam veteran. He has to get in his truck on the street because our driveways are too steep. He can't get in, uses a cane. That man's almost been hit probably 10 times that I've known. So it's a pretty serious matter. So if somebody could maybe look at helping me get this done, I'd appreciate it.
Mr. Leggett, our chief, Conrad, is standing up, so he's probably going to meet you out in the foyer to have
Okay,
a discussion. Thank you so much, sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Amy Edgeworth.
A little easier. All right. Good evening, esteemed members of the Murrieta City Council and fellow citizens who may be wondering when all this rain will end or when I will stop talking about trains. Well, tonight I stand before you not just as Amy Edgeworth, Chief Engineer of the Murrieta Train Project and founder of our beloved Pearl Center for Creative Arts, but as a harbinger of dreams and tales from a time when rain and train shared a chapter in our city's history. Now, let's talk about rain. In Murrieta, it's more than just water. It's a rare melody, a pause in our sunny symphony. And there's a saying from author Vivian Green: life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass, it's about learning to dance in the rain. Well, Murrieta, I say it's time we learn to dance again, but this time with a train, and at the site of our old Murrieta train depot. Imagine years ago, our predecessors gazed out as rain washed away the train tracks, a lifeline to the world beyond. They might have thought, well, that's terribly inconvenient. But here's the twist. What if we viewed every drop of rain not as a reminder of great loss, but as a drum roll, a prelude to the grand return of a train to Murrieta? Now, why a train, you might ask? Because just like rain nourishes the earth, trains nourish our connectivity, our community, and our creative imaginations. Trains, like rain, are transformative. And yes, we've waited. Oh, how we've waited. But as the classic quote goes, there's something about the sound of a train that's very romantic and nostalgic and hopeful. Paul Simon knew the deal, and so do we. Let's envision together a Murrieta where rain doesn't wash away our paths, but instead waters the seeds of progress and innovation, where the return of a train symbolizes not just a mode of transport, but a bridge to our past and a launch pad for our future. A future where every raindrop is a reminder of resilience and of our capacity to dream and do big things. We're not just talking about tracks and trains. We're talking about laying down the foundation for a thriving, interconnected community, a community that looks at rain and sees possibility, that hears the distant whistle of a train and feels anticipation. So tonight, as we gather under the roof of possibility, let's make a pact. Let's not allow another season of rain to pass without turning our dreams into a reality. Let's bring the train back to Murrieta, not just as a nod to our history, but as a beacon of our commitment to growth, to unity, and to the unstoppable spirit of our community, and as the foundation of our city's very first and quite unique cultural arts center. In conclusion, let's not just weather the storm, let's ride it out. Let's transform every raindrop into a note in the symphony of our city's revival. Together, let's ensure that the train and the rain are remembered, not for what they washed away, but for what they bring back to Murrieta. Let's bring family history, local history, and community art to all. Thank you for your time, your faith in renewal, and your willingness to embark on this journey with me. Here's to dancing in the rain and the tracks we will lay together.
Don't forget your train.
Thank you.
Bob Landwehr.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In August of 2022, $3 million of ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan Act, were dedicated to provide, I'm quoting, provide municipal water service to the areas that currently utilize wells. For the 50 parcels at the bottom of Los Alamos Hills Water Project. Not former Mayor Alan Long's 68 acres at the top of Los Alamos Hills, and not for a new paved Mason Road. That doesn't qualify for rescue. And I'm quoting specifically, the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund is meant to serve the public health needs of existing population. Congress specifically directed in the Safe Drinking Water Act that the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund program avoid the use of funds to finance the expansion of any public water system in anticipation for future population growth. That's what this program does. The Los Alamos Hills Water Project does that. It's oversized lines. EMWD initial cost estimate was $3.2 million. We're now at 4.7. The use of ARPA funds for fire protection are also ineligible per the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund. Page 13 and 14 of the handbook, Mr. Holler. What happened to the fortunately, I'm quoting, fortunately annexation costs are eligible for funding through ARPA for the 50 parcel owners at the bottom of Los Alamos Hills? What happened to that? Well, parcel owners weren't invited to the hearings. We didn't know about it. To avoid Cal Fish and Wildlife, the environmental document claims the habitat reserves adjacent to the sports park are undeveloped lots. It's signposted. Mr. Holiday, how close it is to your house? 100 yards? And you're on the board for the RCA. The proposed oversized pipeline actually runs adjacent to the playground at Rel Ranch on two sides. To avoid mandatory quarter-mile notice requirements for noticing and consulting with Murrieta Valley Unified School District, the environmental document claims Avaha Elementary at 0.6 of a mile to avoid the quarter-mile requirement. Just putting our kids at risk. These aren't typos. These aren't typos. This was intentionally done. Attached to your letter that you just received is correspondence I sent back to you all back in November and December of 2022. The second page is a 30-page cheat sheet that was handed to each of the LAFCO board members on January 25th that documents a pattern of continuing deception. This project is corrupt. It's corrupt. And I'm disappointed that it has your all full support. Thanks for the day.
That concludes public comments, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. We'll move on to consent calendar. This is approval of items 1 through 9. Items on the consent calendar are considered routine and may be enacted by one motion and vote. There will be no discussion of these items unless specific items are removed from the consent calendar for separate motions. Are there any requests from the City Council to pull any consent calendar items for discussion or abstain from voting? Seeing none, Madam City Clerk, are there any members of the public requesting to speak on a consent calendar item?
Seeing none.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 10, discussion, update on efforts. Sorry,
Madam Mayor. Can we call for a motion?
Sorry.
That's okay.
I'm moving very quickly tonight.
Okay. It looks like
we will call for a motion and second to approve the consent calendar. I see a motion and a second. I'll vote. Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously 5-0.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Okay, moving on to discussion item number 10, update on efforts to improve insurance rates for Murrieta residents. Staff, may we have a report, please? Hello, Chief.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor Stone, Mayor Pro Tem Warren, and Council. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to present tonight on what is a very important topic for our city. I think all of us are aware that a lot is going on in the insurance space right now, specifically having to do with cancellations due to wildfire insurance. So I wanted to give an update to our City Council this evening on what we're doing within the city to help improve these insurance rates for Murrieta residents. I should start by saying everything I'm going to present on tonight is publicly available. There is no communication from the insurance commissioner or the insurance agencies coming directly to the fire industry or any specific fire departments. So this is all out of research that's publicly available. I want to start by talking about insurance regulations because we can't start the conversation without talking about how insurance is regulated. In 1988, Prop 103 established the California Insurance Code sections 1861 through .1 through .16. That's Title 10 of the California Code of Regulations. This is where the insurance regulations live in the California Code of Regulations. There are 2 points I want to draw out of all of those codes. The first is the competitive rating system, and this allows insurers to have flexibility in setting rates based on how risk factors, potentially lowering rates for low-risk individuals, but raising them for high-risk groups. It's important to note that the insurance regulations don't just deal with homeowners insurance. These are also deal with auto insurance. They're treated very similarly from what I can tell in the statutes. The second is that the territorial rating and filing rates gives insurance some leeway in setting rates based on location and risk, leading to variations for different areas and individuals. So that's how we'll see different insurance rates based on where you live. About a year ago, there started to be some changes in the insurance space directed by the insurance commissioner. On February 3rd, 2023, Commissioner Lara released Bulletin 23-2. That updated Title 10 of the California Code of Regulations. It brought insurance plans the ability to have a rate plan that takes into account individual home wildfire mitigation, meaning if you take steps to protect your home, it will have an impact on your insurance rates. This gave when he came out with this bulletin, it gave insurance agencies 180 days to comply and submit a new rate plan with these mitigations in there. This was based on the wildfire mitigation. They based the wildfire mitigations on what's called the Safer from Wildfires Initiative, and I'll have a list of those things coming soon. This initiative is a list of home hardening and fire preparation steps a homeowner can take and that cities can take to help their homeowners as well lower their insurance. So they had 180 days to comply, and when that came about, that was in September. Executive Order in 1323 was issued, and the new insurance regulatory actions came with this, and this was signed by Governor Newsom. With this was after the 180 days, it required insurance agencies to write no less than 85% of their statewide market share in distressed areas. The intention of this was to pull people out of the California Fair Plan back into the regular insurance market. And it was also directed that insurance agencies would now have to recognize the mitigation and hardening requirements that were approved in the previous Safer from Wildfires plan. In the press release from the state, when this new executive order came out, and I want to read this directly, it said, insurance companies will not write in high-risk areas unless they can cover 100% of consumer claims, their expenses, and make a fair return. This is very clear that this was laying the groundwork to be able to increase insurance premiums for residential properties. And as we saw in the previous California Code of Regulations, that is something that can be done. So what happened? Soon after that came out in September, a lot of insurance agencies decided to pause or suspend writing any plans in California or leave the state completely. Currently, we have 7 of the top 12 insurance agencies that are completely out of the state and writing new policies right now. People are being forced into the FAIR Plan as a result of this, and the FAIR Plan should really be an insurance of last resort, but it's becoming the insurance of first resort for many of the people throughout our city. And as I mentioned, there's little to no communication from insurance agencies, the insurance commissioner, to fire departments or cities on how we can make effective changes to help our citizens with this. And we can anticipate as a result of this, we're going to see insurance rates raise on our homeowners insurances as we have seen with commercial properties already. I want to really draw emphasis to the fact that there's no measure for current fire code enforcement, and there's nothing that is being measured about what your local fire department is doing with defensible space or to protect the community. MFR did over 14,000 defensible space inspections last year, and it's had zero impact on our insurance rates for our public. They don't come to the city and ask us how well we've done on complying with state mandates. So looking forward at what is coming, we wanted to talk about this initiative, the Safer from Wildfires plan. It's a ground-up approach to wildfire resilience in 3 layers of protections. It's protecting the structure, protecting the surroundings of the structure, and then doing community protection as well. And when this was enacted, it was supposed to be able to help you save money on your insurance, at least the wildfire portion of your insurance. We have not seen that happen yet. We're not aware of any insurance agencies that are giving prorated amounts because of these mitigations that are taken. The only plan that is doing a little bit of home hardening allowances is the state fair plan, does have a portion of that. So if we look at what this is, and I put a QR code there for anybody that wants to scan this where you can download the list from the state. But if you look at this plan, it's largely building. These are things that you do to your own home. These aren't things that the fire department can do. We can't put on a Class A roof. The ember resistant zone, that's something you have to do to harden your home. So a lot of this will occur during the building process, but retroactively, people are, if they want to claim these benefits on their insurance, they're going to have to do some of these things to their homes. Some of it is clearing the property. That's work that can be done, and that's work that the fire departments can help enforce. But again, most of this is going to be on the homeowners making improvements to their homes. And I should say that the things that are recommended are very good for hardening your home. They do help your home withstand a wildfire when it makes contact. The other thing that's coming out, and this is not with the Insurance Commission at all, but there's what's called the Wildfire Mitigation Score by CoreLogic. CoreLogic is a data clearinghouse, and they're going to be using AI and parcel level assessments to give your home a wildfire rating. Right now, the score is 0.1 to 100 for risk. So you can't have 0 risk on a home, but you can get down to 0.1. And when it looks, what it's taking into account is the actual parcel level mitigations that you make. This is not accepted by the Insurance Commission yet, that I can tell, but I'm happy to see that somebody is at least telling us what the playbook is going to be. They're going to give us a list of here's the things you have to do, and they'll look at individual parcels to give you a score to help with your insurance. And it's going to set a standard to give homeowners and local agencies a measuring stick. And how they're doing this is off of their website. They're going to utilize AI and comprehensive data sets to model risk. What is not being contemplated, and we still haven't seen anything about, is if they're going to reach out to local agencies to find out what mitigation steps we're taking in our own communities and how much work we're doing in our own space. But at least we'll have the rules. So what can we do as a city to help lower our insurance rates? Unfortunately, with everything that's out there right now, there's not a lot of steps. Right now, under the Safer from Wildfire initiative, there are only 2 things that are listed that local cities or municipalities can do in order to bring down rates. The first is to assist neighborhoods in becoming fire-wise communities, and I'll cover what fire-wise communities are in just a minute. And the second is to become recognized as a fire risk reduction community by the Board of Foresters, and I'll cover that as well. There could be an argument that if you enforce defensible space, that can improve homeowners as well, because again, we're looking at an individual parcel and community level, and if your fire department is going out and proactively enforcing the rules that we're supposed to in the very high fire severity zones, we'll be able to ensure that homeowners are doing the proper things under the fire code that they need to be doing. So talking about fire-wise communities, a fire-wise community is a voluntary program, and it takes between 800 and 2,500 homes of neighbors that come together and form a fire-safe community. It goes through the NFPA, and our fire department is happy to help any community, and we're starting a program where we're going to help neighborhoods walk through this program and hold their hands through that process. This will hopefully lower insurance premiums. It's one of the things on the Safer from Wildfire initiative. Right now, in Southwest Riverside County, there is only 1 fire-wise community, and that's up on the plateau. We do not have any in the city of Murrieta currently, but we're going to be working on that. The other thing we can do is become a fire risk reduction community. We can apply for this through the Board of Foresters, and it's reserved for communities that meet the best practices for local fire planning. We have the application open now. It only comes around every 2 years. It's due in April, and we're ready to submit our application in order to enact this. And we meet all of the criteria. We've done a great job planning for wildfire in our city. So I want to talk a little bit about defensible space. It's not one of the exact things that they're saying we can do to help, but it's something that we've taken a very proactive approach on in our community. Right now, Murrieta, we'll call it population of just under 120,000. We're 35.4 square miles after our recent annexation. We did over 14,000 defensible space inspections in our city, and this is a look at the breakdown of what we do. We go through parcel by parcel in the very high fire severity zone, and we rate each one of those in their compliance with the fire code, which is all that we can hold them to is the fire code. And this goes through, I will say when we went through of those 14,000 inspections, we had about 1,100 that weren't in compliance, and just through working with the community, no fines or anything, we had it down to just a little bit over 100 parcels that didn't come into compliance. That's fantastic to have that level of compliance from the residents in the city. So we do this every year. Last year was our first year that we started this, and we're going to continue doing this every single year and hope to get out there and educate the public. So when their insurance agent comes and says, what have you done for defensible space? They have notice that I'm in compliance with defensible space. Something that is coming, established by AB 3074 in 2020 is Zone 0, and this is part of that Safer from Wildfire. It's an ember-resistant zone. The ember-resistant zone says you can have nothing flammable within 5 feet of your home. It's important to note that this is in the very high fire severity zones, which in the city of Murrieta is basically the west side and the east side, roughly. We have the map available online for anybody that wants to see it. But something to note, those zones are set by the state, and the state is they were due 5 years ago to complete the maps, but they have already completed the state responsibility area maps for very high fire severity zones. That's with the Office of Administrative Law right now. As soon as that is done, they're going to start on local responsibility areas, which are municipalities within the city. And we're not seeing these zones shrink anywhere. These zones are growing. So we will see this zone grow into the city of Murrieta further than where it is right now. So there will be a requirement that people clear anything combustible away from their house. That means any plants within 5 feet of your house if you're in these zones, any hedges, any structures that are built to the side of your house that are combustible, those will have to be moved to be in compliance with this Zone 0. We are not enforcing this in the city yet, but it is coming, and many cities have started enforcing it as of 2024, January 1, 2024. So we are going to keep pursuing this. Like I said, we're following this space closely, but there's no direct communication to the fire department, so we're monitoring it, and we are doing everything we can under the Safer from Wildfire provisions to make sure that we're taking the steps necessary to give our citizens the best insurance rates that they can get.
Thank you, Chief. Madam City Clerk, are there any public comments regarding this discussion item?
Seeing none.
Thank you. Council member comments and discussions? Councilmember Holliday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Chief, for your presentation. As you know, you and I were both on a conference call with was it Department of Insurance at the time? Mm-hmm. And I'm furiously taking notes, actually crafting an email to the chief, and then I see a question pop up from Chief Malloy of the Murrieta Fire Department because he was on the call and I didn't know he was on there on the Zoom call. And I just want to applaud your efforts to be on top of this and to be doing everything we can as a city to address the problem that is really not ours to address, but no one else is doing it very well. So we have to do it to our best of our ability. So I appreciate that. On the Firewise community, if we get that designation, there's no guarantee that's going to have an effect on insurance rates as they stand today, correct?
Well, it seems that a lot of rules have been set that aren't being followed. So the insurance commissioner has set rules that to date we're not seeing the insurance providers follow. You do, with the FAIR plan, if you have a Firewise community, you are getting prorated insurance because of that. And it's important that we note that these percentage decreases that you'll get through the Safer from Wildfire initiative are only on the wildfire portion of your insurance. So it will bring that down by whatever percentage it is. The FAIR Plan is recognizing fire-wise communities. So we have finally some rules that we can follow, and we're going to do everything we can to follow because we want to be able to show that we're taking it seriously and we're taking all the steps that we can.
And if our application is approved, when would we expect to have that designation?
So there's two different things there. The Firewise community, it has to be based on neighborhoods. So it's 8 to 2,500 homes. So Bear Creek would be an example. Bear Creek could apply to be a Firewise community. What we need to get for the city is you need to be called a fire risk reduction community. And what we have to do to apply for that is through the Board of Foresters, and we apply in April, but we don't know how long that provision takes. Currently, there's only 2 cities in Southern California that meet that standard. And that's not because only 2 cities meet that standard. That's because until the Safer from Wildfire initiative came out, nobody knew it existed. So none of the cities had applied for it before, but we've met that standard for a long time within our city.
So we don't know when we'll have that designation?
We don't, but I think it would be within 6 months of that application would be my guess.
That'd be reasonable. All right, appreciate the presentation. Great job.
Seeing no other council comments or discussion, this will be a receive and file item, and thank you, Chief. Moving on to governing body announcements. This is an opportunity for City Council to provide miscellaneous reports and announcements. Announcements should not exceed 2 minutes. City Clerk will use the computerized timer, and we'll start with Council Member DeForest.
Thank you, Mayor. This will be all on file. You can read it. Met with several different people and was very excited to attend the Leukemia and Lymphoma Fireman's Step. And they were completely decked out in full fire gear, walking up a Stairmaster for hours. And that was to raise money for lymphoma and leukemia. They will turn around and do that on full gear, simulating the going up the towers. So quite amazing to see those guys working so hard for a great cause. I also, with my fellow colleagues, was very excited to attend the Murrieta Hot Springs opening of the beautiful resort, and I was excited because we got to spend the night there February 1st, and sitting in one of the pools, as we started speaking to a nice gentleman, he says he's the great-grandson of Fritz Gunther, who was the original owner of the Murrieta Hot Springs, and he was excited to also spend one of the first nights there. So they are going to have an absolutely beautiful resort. It was a lot of fun to be the first, and a beautiful night in the rain at the hot springs. So I would encourage everyone to go enjoy that. So thank you, Madam Mayor. That is all I have for this evening.
Great. We will move on to, since my screen moves over, Councilmember LaBelle.
Thank you, Mayor Stone. I have no pictures. I was hoping you guys would have pictures, but I also attended the ribbon cutting of the Murrieta Hot Springs Resort. It's a great place. If you haven't visited yet, I recommend all of you go take a gander. But I look forward to spending my first night as well. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Holliday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You can see most of my stuff on the announcements, which will be online, but I wanted to highlight a couple, along with Chief Malloy and Chief Conrad and a couple others. We judged the Rotary's Marcia Hall Brown Memorial Speech Contests that had 2 applicants because of some schedule conflicts, and then 1 applicant canceled at the last minute, so we had 1 contestant, so it was really hard to judge. But this young man, 18-year-old young man who had been dealing with anxiety disorder, gave a great speech, and I think he's going to do great things. And so he got all of the prize money for first, second, and third, will now go on to the district Rotary contest, which hopefully he'll bring a trophy back for Murrieta. So that was exciting and enjoyed attending that. Also, I attended along with Mayor Stone and Mayor Pro Tem Cindy Warren, we attended was it 12th annual or 13th annual? I wrote 12th annual, but I was thinking it was 13th annual. So I've got a typo on there. It's actually the 13th annual Justice Matters Dinner, which deals with human trafficking. And they had a young lady there that had been trafficked and gave some great insight that most of these people don't view themselves as victims. They don't know they're in a bad situation, and it really takes a special way to communicate with them to be able to get them to really look at their situation and acknowledge that they're victims. And she talked a little bit about herself, but things we can do. So something we definitely need to stay on top of, and I appreciate that group. And Chief Conrad was there as well. Appreciate that group keeping that in front of us. And that's all I have. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Holliday. Mayor Pro Tem Warren.
Thank you so very much. You can see I've been out and about since our last meeting. I do want to highlight a couple of items. I co-hosted the Cybersecurity Health and Wellness meeting at the Knowles community to help our seniors understand what's being done out there to get them. And I know that sounds horrible, but it is the truth. I want to thank our Chief Malloy for being there on part of the fire department, and also Chief Conrad for your staff to also be there. It was wonderful, and we had over 100 people attend, and they walked away with a lot of good information, especially from our department. So I wanted to thank you very much for having your staff there and for being there as well, Chief. I also ran from there to the stair climb and did Fill the Boot fundraiser supporting our fire department for leukemia lymphoma research. Also, I got to hear Mayor Stone do an update on the community at the Knowles Ladies Luncheon Society, so that was fun. We had fun with there. It's a great group of ladies over there. And one special thing that I did, there's a community that recently lost a member of their neighborhood, and we did a small dedication in honor. He was the first neighbor in that community, and the neighborhood all came out to do a dedication for him with me, and it was quite lovely to see a community come together and say such wonderful things about our city, their neighbor, and to be there to support his wife. So I got an opportunity to do that, which was really very cool in District 5. And with my colleagues, Mayor Stone and Councilmember Holliday, we attended the annual Best of Inland Empire Awards, and we stayed to the very end because we won Best City, and that was a great way to walk out of the Riverside County that night. So it was a fun night. You can see the rest of all of my attendance online, and of course, if you need to reach me, my cell phone's available and my email. Thank you.
You. God, whatever. Yeah. Okay, so as a very busy council member for the last 2-3 years, I've been very busy as the new mayor, and you can review my governing body announcements on our website. But I do want to just highlight a few things. First, I want to highlight the Downtown Historic Society. And Ron, for the life of me, I can't remember what the program is called, but there is a disc in front of every historical building in downtown Murrieta. There's a QR code, and you put your phone over it, and it tells you the history of that building. I thought that was a really cool. Do you remember the name of that? I'm going to put you on the spot.
It's the Historical Society, and it's the historical stickers.
The historical stickers. Anyways, I really thought that was amazing. And I also attended Fill a Boot campaign with our firefighters. I was actually on the street with them, and every year I give them a heart attack because I'm fearless, absolutely fearless. And this is what I found out is the younger generation, they never carry cash on them. The younger generation never has cash. And then, yeah, Venmo. And then, obviously, one of the highlights of Murrieta was the grand opening of Murrieta Hot Springs. And it was just really an honor as the mayor to be able to speak about the history and the journey of my family incorporating the history with Murrieta Hot Springs, and I hope that you had a few laughs. And I also want, again, to thank our entire city team. From day one, you've stepped up to the plate, and on weekends and after hours, accommodating the Hot Springs to get to the point where they were for the ribbon cutting. Really, truly, your council is very, very proud of you, and I know that your city manager is as well. And in closing, Ron Holiday, here is our best Inland Empire Magazine City of the Year for 2024. So it was definitely a great way to end the evening. It was the last announcement, and we were all stunned. We were all shocked. And we all walked up there and we were like, oh my God, we're actually the best of the best. So with that, that ends my governing body announcements. Moving on, council members' request to add items for future agendas. Do we have any requests in the queue?
Sorry, I don't know. My turn.
Do we all have?
I don't know, that's.
Yep. Nope. Okay, hold on. Oh, we'll just go on down. Does anybody have any? Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
I'd like to have consensus to continue our discussion on the EDC conversation, if we can bring that back for further discussion to move forward one way or another.
Yeah, I'd like to see that on a future agenda.
Do I have consensus?
Yes.
I thought that was already coming back. Didn't we just decide that?
We said we'd have to bring it back.
We have to bring it back.
Would that be okay?
Okay,
I'd
so
like
we
to
have
bring that back.
consensus to bring that back.
Did you understand what I was asking to do?
The EDC, we're going to bring it back.
Yes, the workshop, yes.
To continue
Yes,
it, thank you.
Yes, thank
So
you.
just for clarification, bringing it back to vote on participation or bringing it back to talk about it more? Okay, yes.
To discuss.
It will be a discussion item.
She wants a discussion.
I want a discussion.
She wants to continue the discussion.
And then to vote?
And then to vote.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, that's fine.
Is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other future agenda items? I have a future agenda item that I would like to bring to the next meeting. As you know, in December, that there was a private investigator that made some allegations. And this is a topic that continues every other week. I would like to personally address a day in her shoes publicly for my council and for the residents of Murrieta.
I will second that.
You have consensus? So we have Lauren Lavelle Holiday. Councilmember DeForest?
Can I ask for clarification?
Yes.
Did you say the next meeting?
Yes.
That's going to be very difficult for us because we've already passed the deadline for submittals to get something on for the next meeting. We could certainly do it at the following meeting.
The following meeting would be fine, and the reason why I requested the next meeting is because the event is on March 8th. And I'd like to address this before the event, if we cannot do it at
March
the next
5th.
meeting.
March 5th,
So we will do it Tuesday, March 5th.
yes.
Okay. Consensus? Yes. Thank you. Okay, before we adjourn, I like to give a little quote. As a parting thought to tonight's meeting, I would like to share the following quote, unity and strength. When there is teamwork, communication, and collaboration, wonderful things can be achieved. And this is by Maddie Sepanek. Without any further business, this meeting is now adjourned.